This is my family. A little crazy, a little loud, but they're mine. Now, I knew my family was a lot like other families, but I wasn't sure, so I wanted to interview people to see what the nominative group was. And I found out that maybe there isn't a nominative family group. Maybe every family is just very different. Let's see. Before we talk about other families, this is mine. My mom and my dad. But I have a few other people in my family too. This is my sister, Alyssa. And I live with my cousin Sabrina. That's her. And Bianca comes in occasionally. She lives in Wisconsin. And this is the four of us, my sister, Bianca, me, and my cousin Sabrina. And we had a tragedy in our family where my uncle got sick and overdosed on drugs and killed my aunt. So now we all lived under one roof, and I was forced to share my room with my cousin, which was a interesting transition after never sharing my room. So this is my story, and my family is a little wacky because of it, but other people have a very similar story. And so throughout this documentary, I have interviews from my friend Josh and Olivia, then an interview from my mother, how this whole tragedy impacted her, and then I have a final interview from my sister, who's a school social worker, on families that she sees and her opinion on the nominative group. So let's watch.
I'm Josh Pennington.
I'm Olivia Candosia.
This is Jacqueline Kazelka.
Okay. My name is Alyssa Pataraka.
I'm 22.
And I'm 21 years old.
I'm 50 years old.
I'm 25.
So at home, I live with my mom and her wife, Karen. And that's who I live with at home. My dad, my parents are divorced, obviously. And my dad and my sister live in a different house. I consider all of them my family. Blood related people. Like, my cousins are probably equally as close to me as my sister. Well, I'm actually really not close with my sister.
Okay.
We're getting closer as we're getting older, but a lot of my cousins, I am actually closer to them than I am with her, but they're kind of like siblings to me than just like cousins. It's actually really good. I'm really close with my mom. I'm not super close with Karen just because she her and my mom got married after I had gone to college, and I had only lived with Karen a year before I went, so I don't really, but my mom and I are super close. My dad and I are kind of close. I used to live with him when I was younger, and then I started living with my mom when I was in middle school. They got divorced when I was 8, and I lived with my dad until I was in middle school, and I was really unhappy living with him, so I had asked my mom if I could move in with her. So that's why I lived with my mom, and my sister lived with my dad.
Okay.
So when I was very young and my parents were together, I'm a military child. Both my parents were in the military. So I moved around a lot. So a lot of my younger year memories of home life is a lot of traveling. So, I thought it was pretty good. There was a year my father was at war, and I was actually, when I was younger, raised by nannies because my parents were like so busy with military, and especially when like Iraq happened and they were gone and absent. I had nannies, like live-in nannies, that would kind of take care of me during the week while they were at work. One of them was actually a teacher at my school. So we would go to school together. I think, I don't know. I think about this a lot of like how divorce has affected who I am now as a 22-year-old. I'm very go with the flow kind of personality, so I wonder if that plays into it. My sister, who's 25, she is, because of the divorce, very against change and very like she has to have things exactly how she needs them to be the same all the time. And I'm very opposite, which is where like me and her have that disconnect. And both of us kind of think it stemmed from the divorce. So I think the divorce definitely impacted my life, I would say, in a positive way. When I lived with my father, when I was like younger in grade school, I was really unhappy. And I think a positive thing that came out of that was that I learned how to like stand up for myself, especially being in like a military household. Like you just don't stand up for yourself. So I remember the day that I actually was like, I want to live with mom. And I think that it took all this unhappiness to make me that way, but I think that has drastically, like that moment, that pivotal moment in my life has impacted who I am now at 22. Like I tend to be very direct with people and talk about things that bother me. And I think that without those unhappy years, I wouldn't be where I am today. So it's sad, but I think it's positive. I definitely don't have the norm family life. I mean, I have divorced parents, but that's pretty common. But like, my mother's a lesbian, and my father has serious committal issues. I definitely think that my home life is not in the normative.
Yeah.
But I also don't think it's ever bothered me. I've always just kind of been like, this is my life and this is just what my reality is, and I've kind of always just accepted that at what it is. But like I said earlier, my sister has really rejected that and always wanted the mother, father, son, daughter. So it'd be really interesting if you were here to answer these questions. But yeah, I guess my perspective is, yes, it did alienate me, but I think alienate is too negative of a word for how I felt about the process.
At home, well, two of my siblings are in college, no, actually, I'm going to start that over. My brother graduated about a year ago, but he's been living at home in like our basement and trying to get a job, so he's there right now. And then there's my mom, who's a single parent because my parents just finalized their divorce a few months ago. And then there's my littlest sister, Lily, who lives there. So it's Lily, my mom, and my brother.
And so then you're a middle child, or?
Yeah, I'm the second oldest.
Yeah.
I guess I consider my like immediate family my family, just because like, I don't know, like sisters can bond over things that their like parents do, and like I'm not that close with my brother because he's like science, like tech dude, and I'm like theater chick. But I don't know. And little Lily, she's little. And I don't know. I try and be like the median ground for everybody. I feel like I'm the closest with everybody compared to everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everyone can come to me and connect to me and complain and things. And, you know. The divorce kind of like messed everything up because my dad had been like cheating on my mom for like 2 years while they were still married and like trying to keep it a secret. So then once that like news came out, like the surface has been very like walking on eggshells because like I just went to my dad's wedding a few weekends ago, but I like my mom doesn't know that because like I didn't want to like break her heart about that. And like my little sister Lily is just like she has to like see him because she's the youngest, and she hates it because, you know, it's her dad, and I just try and stay neutral because good people make bad decisions and bad people make good decisions. You know, it's hard, but like I don't want to like make it personal when it wasn't about me. It was, you know, my mom and my dad's issue. So it's kind of weird. There's a lot of tension because of my brother still being at home, and like that's just driving my mom crazy. You know, like, okay, you should leave now because like I'm a stay-at-home mom just who wants to pay for like just my little daughter, not you, who's like been out of school. So that's weird. Yeah, family gatherings are really different now. Yeah. I guess as a kid you just see people as like older people as really great, and like now that I see that there's like, I don't know, that my dad did this bad thing, things are just I don't know how to like phrase it. It's just being an adult child is so different from being a child because you know things but you still don't want to like get involved and stuff. But I find myself being more of my mom's like best friend now, and like role reversal, you know, where like I'll take care of her instead of her taking care of me, you know what I mean? Because she like she gets really emotional. She can't like listen to love songs on the radio or anything. She hates watching movies with like cheating and stuff, and like I get it, but it's really hard to be like that adult for her, you know. I haven't talked about Mia. She's my first youngest sister, and then Lily's the one who stays at home. She's like a badass like lesbian like hippie girl. So she's so selfish and like hateful, and it's so, I like feel like I have to be this positive light in comparison, you know what I mean? Yeah. There's just so many different personalities in my family, and to like balance them all and like, look, this is my family unit, look how great we are. I don't know, when people talk about how great their Christmas gatherings were, or like whatever this gathering, I'm like, yeah, I guess it was okay, but we're always like arguing in the car about something, or like, you know, it's the whole like, my dad's married now, like as I said, and like they had a kid while my parents were still married, mind you. So I have this like stepsister, what is it, half sister now, and like that's weird, and having to see her, cause I'm like, oh, good luck, baby. Like I don't know how to phrase that better, but it's just a lot to like have around you and not know how to feel about them, because life is just constantly changing, you know. I agree. It's never gonna stop being weird. So we had a house and everybody had a bedroom, and then Max started like living back there again, and even though he doesn't sleep in his room, he sleeps in the basement, even though he has a room. He just hasn't cleaned it out, which is another problem we have. Hasn't cleaned that out because he's like, I'll clean it out when I move. It's been a year. But Lily has been wanting, because her room was really tiny, because we like built it off of my parents' bedroom, you know. And so she's like, I really want Olivia's room. So now Lily is in my room, and like I didn't know they were doing that at all either. So when Lily like FaceTimed me and showed me the whole room, I was like, oh, like tears. So now I sleep in her like old room with like my broken bed, and like there's just boxes in there, you know. So when I go home, I feel like I don't have like a safe space to like go to, and it's awkward because everything's like crooked, you know.
I live with my husband, Steven. I live with my daughter, Natalie. And sometimes my niece comes in, it's Sabrina. And then my other niece will come in and out, Bianca. She lives in Wisconsin. And my daughter is married, Alyssa. I consider them all my family. There's my cousins and my aunt. Used to be crazy with the dogs, but now we don't have our dogs anymore. But it gets crazy when everybody gets home. But it's really quiet when it's just the two of us. Steve and I. And when Natalie comes home from college, it gets crazy. Well, when I was growing up, it was me, my dad, my sister, and my mom. And we grew up in Chicago. And we all went to Catholic schools, and Catholic high school, and then a Catholic college, and we all lived at home. I didn't leave the house till I got married. Wow. We lived not far from home, you know. My mom lived very close, and then we ended up living in my aunt's apartment building. And then we all moved to Arlington Heights, and my sister lived close, my mom lived close. Then I had children. I had two girls, Natalie and Alyssa.
I've been a social worker for about almost 2 years at Cicero School District. I work with a variety of families. I work with families who have immigrated to the United States. I've worked with families who one of the parents or family members have been incarcerated. I've worked with families who have lost their home. I've worked with homeless families. And I've worked with families, multiple families of single parents. Well, I wouldn't consider any family in the normal range. I would say that there's really no such thing as a nuclear family anymore. And what a nuclear family is a nuclear family is a mom, a dad, and children. You know, boy or girl, or just girls, or just boys. There really isn't just that anymore. You have families that have 2 moms, you have families that have 2 dads, you have families where, you know, you have a single parent, either a single mom or single dad. You have some children live with their grandparents, their uncles, their aunts, and they all live in the same house or the same building. You have families where they don't have a home, or they're living in a homeless shelter with multiple people who they would consider their family. You have children who grew up in the foster care system where they have foster parents. So really there is no, I would say, norm or family norm. Especially with the families that I work with. I wouldn't say that any family that I work with is the same. I would say that they're all very different. I don't think it exists, no. I think I can. I think some kids, it's harder to connect with them than others, because you have some kids, like I said, because there is no norm group, and I can give you an example of that. I have multiple families that are single parents, and some families who are single parents, they have open communication with their children. They're very, they're very close. They're very attached to their parents. Whereas I have other families where it's a single parent and they're very distant from their parents. They're not very open. It's not a very open communication family. And I would say some of those families are much harder to connect with the child because they're used to kind of putting a wall up. And when that wall is put up, it shows in other ways, because even though they may not be expressing what is really bothering them, they express it in their behaviors. Well, what I offer is I offer IEP services. So that's for families and I wouldn't say families, because I don't work necessarily with the family as a whole unit. That's more done outside of the school setting. I work directly with the kids. So if a child has an IEP, I would give them direct services, whether it be in a group or individually, and that would be documented on their IEP. I also develop a behavior plan for children, which is a very specific set of guidelines on what motivates the child, what rewards and consequences are put in place for the child to help them improve their behavior, and what different things to look out for. Not necessarily, but unfortunately, because the way that the school system is set up, a lot of times, especially with the high need families that I work with specifically, children who are not expressing those more externalized or extreme internalization, those children usually get served first because they're the highest need. However, I do implement services for students who are, something happened at home. I meet with the families and we implement things to do at home. I also set families up with outside behavioral counseling so that those children are not getting overlooked by the system.
So they bring this baggage into schools then?
Yes, and that's why we see a lot of these external behaviors. If it's not caught early, so if parents are not communicating with their children, they see what's going on and they're not providing the child with the external help they may need, or they're not responsive to external help that the child may need, that trauma continues to build, and those behaviors get more and more severe. So you'll see more and more severe externalized behaviors or more and more severe internalized behaviors.
So I found out through this project that every family is different, and there really is no normative group anymore. But that's part of what makes life so awesome and interesting, and that's why people are so unique. And that's part of life.
Life is just constantly changing, you know?
I agree.
It's never gonna stop being weird.